There's a version of you that is exhausted right now, and you might not even fully know why. You wake up tired. Not the kind of tiredness that sleep fixes, but something heavier. Something that lives behind your eyes and sits in your chest. You go through your day carrying weight that doesn't quite have a name. You replay conversations. You wonder what someone meant by that look they gave you. You check your phone more than you want to. You feel the shift in someone's tone and spend the next 3 hours turning it over in your mind. You want things to go a certain way, you want people to see you a certain way, you want the world to behave according to your expectations, and when it doesn't, which is most of the time, you suffer quietly and wonder why you can never just be at peace. I'll tell you why. You care too much. And until you learn to stop, that exhaustion isn't going anywhere. Now before you misread what I'm saying, because people always do, I'm not telling you to become numb. I'm not telling you to shut yourself off, to build walls, to stop feeling things. That's not the answer, and anyone who's lived long enough knows it. People who've gone down that road, who've hardened themselves completely, who've decided that caring is for fools, they don't end up free. They end up empty. There's a difference between not caring and not being controlled by what you care about. That difference is everything, and most people never find it because they're too busy swinging between one extreme and the other. Either they care so deeply about everything that it's slowly killing them, or they try to care about nothing and end up hollow. The place you want to find is somewhere in the middle, and it takes real work to get there. Let's start with what people think of you, because that's the one that quietly runs most people's lives whether they admit it or not. From the time you were a child, you were taught, not always in words, but in 1,000 small lessons, that other people's opinions of you matter. That how you appear is tied to your value. That fitting in is safety and standing out is risk. And so most people learn very early to monitor themselves constantly through the eyes of others. They dress for other people. They speak carefully around other people. They make choices based on what will be approved of, what will be liked, what will land well. And the result is a life that looks decent from the outside and feels hollow from the inside, because nothing about it was actually chosen, it was all performed. The brutal truth about what other people think of you is this: it has almost nothing to do with you. People's perceptions are filtered through their own history, their own insecurities, their own bad days, their own unexamined assumptions. When someone forms an opinion of you, they are mostly telling you about themselves. The person who thinks you're arrogant might just be someone who was never allowed to take up space growing up. The person who thinks you're weird might just be someone who's never had the courage to be themselves. The person who's cold to you today might just have had a fight this morning that you know nothing about. You are walking through other people's projections every single day, taking their reflections personally, carrying their stories as if they were facts about who you are. And it is wearing you out for no reason. This doesn't mean you should stop caring what anyone thinks entirely. That would be its own kind of blindness. There are people whose perspective genuinely matters. People who know you, who have earned the right to speak into your life, who want the best for you and have the wisdom to offer something useful. Their feedback is worth sitting with. But those people are few, and you probably already know who they are. The problem is that most of us don't filter. We give the same weight to a stranger's passing judgment as we do to our closest friend's considered opinion. We let the comment, the cold shoulder, the raised eyebrow from someone we barely know live in our heads rent-free for days. That's not sensitivity. That's a lack of boundaries around your own mind. And you can change it. Now let's talk about outcomes, because this is where the philosophical piece comes in and where things get a little harder to sit with. Most people suffer not just because of what others think of them, but because they are constantly in conflict with reality. They want things to go a certain way and they cling to that expectation so tightly that when life moves differently, which it always does, because life doesn't consult your preferences, they fall apart. The job that didn't come through. The relationship that didn't work out. The plan that collapsed. The recognition that never arrived. People treat these things as catastrophes, as evidence that something has gone deeply wrong, as reasons to spiral. And the reason they hurt so much isn't just the loss itself. It's the gap between what was expected and what actually happened. It's the attachment to a specific outcome that was never guaranteed in the first place. The Stoics understood this better than almost anyone. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ran an empire and watched it crumble at the edges while he kept writing in his journal at night, he kept coming back to one idea. That there are things within your control and things outside of it, and the secret to a life of any peace at all is knowing the difference. What's inside your control is small but absolute: your choices, your effort, your attention, your response. What's outside your control is almost everything else: how people receive you, whether things work out, what happens next. Most people spend the majority of their energy on the second category and neglect the first. They obsess over results and pay almost no attention to the quality of their own actions. And then they wonder why they feel so powerless. Caring too much about outcomes is really a form of trying to control what you cannot control. And control, when it's directed at things that won't bend to your will, turns into anxiety. It turns into that background hum of unease that follows you around, that feeling that something could go wrong at any moment, that compulsive need to check and adjust and manage things that aren't yours to manage. The release from that isn't indifference. It's trust. Trust in your own ability to handle whatever comes. Trust that most outcomes, even the ones that seem terrible in the moment, eventually reveal themselves as something you needed. Not always right away. Sometimes years later. But the moments that broke you open were usually the ones that built you. You've probably already lived this. Think about something that devastated you once that you now understand was necessary. That understanding, that retrospective clarity, is available to you in real time if you practice it. If you learn to hold your expectations a little more loosely. There's a particular way that caring too much shows up that I want to name specifically, because it's sneaky and most people don't recognize it in themselves. It's the need for things to mean something right now. The need for immediate validation, immediate resolution, immediate confirmation that you made the right call. We live in a time that feeds this need constantly. Everything is designed to give you a quick hit of feedback, a quick signal of whether you're winning or losing, approved of or ignored. And the more you feed that need, the more powerful it becomes. You post something and you check how it's doing. You send a message and you watch for the response. You make a decision and you immediately start looking for signs that it was correct. You have outsourced your sense of okayness to an endless stream of external signals, and those signals will never, ever be enough, because the need they're feeding is bottomless. The only thing that actually fills it is developing what some people call an internal locus of control, and what I just call knowing your own mind. It's reaching a point where your sense of yourself doesn't collapse every time something goes wrong or someone disapproves. Where you can sit with uncertainty without it eating you alive. Where you can do good work and release it without needing to watch it be received. That kind of steadiness isn't built in a day. It's built in the small moments when you choose not to check, not to seek reassurance, not to catastrophize. When you let something be unresolved for a while and discover that you're still standing. Every time you tolerate that discomfort without running from it, you get a little stronger. And eventually the things that used to knock you sideways start to feel like weather, something that passes through, something you notice, but something you no longer build your whole mood around. I also want to say something about relationships and how caring too much shows up there, because this is where people feel it most acutely. When you care too much about someone, not in the sense of loving them deeply, but in the sense of making their emotional state your responsibility, their approval your oxygen, you lose yourself inside that relationship. You stop being a person and become an extension of them. You track their moods. You adjust yourself constantly to keep the temperature right. You are more aware of how they're feeling than how you're feeling. And paradoxically, the more you do this, the less they tend to value you. Because you've made yourself formless. You've given up the very thing that made you interesting to them in the first place, your own perspective, your own presence, your own interior life. Caring less, in the healthy sense, means staying yourself inside your relationships. It means being genuinely interested in the people you love without dissolving into them. It means being able to let someone be upset without immediately making it your mission to fix it. It means understanding that you cannot love someone into a particular feeling about you, and that trying to do so is both exhausting and counterproductive. The most loving thing you can do in any relationship is show up as a complete person. Someone with their own thoughts, their own needs, their own capacity to sometimes disagree or disappoint. That fullness is what real intimacy is built on. Not the performance of devotion, but the presence of a real human being. So where do you actually start? Because I know it's one thing to hear all of this and another thing entirely to live it. Start by noticing. Just notice, without judgment, how often your mind is somewhere other than where you are. How often you're rehearsing a conversation or replaying one. How often you're imagining how something will be received before you've even done it. How often your mood is being determined by something completely outside your control. Just watch it for a while. Don't try to force it to stop, because that never works. Just get honest about the scale of it. How much of your mental and emotional energy is going toward things you cannot change, cannot control, cannot predict? When you see it clearly enough, the shift starts to happen on its own. Then, slowly, practice redirecting. When you catch yourself spiraling about what someone thinks, ask yourself whether their opinion is actually information you need or just noise your mind is amplifying. When you catch yourself gripping an outcome, ask yourself what you actually control in this situation and put your energy there. When you feel that pull to check, to seek, to reassure yourself from the outside, wait. Sit with the discomfort for a few minutes longer than feels comfortable. You'll find it passes. Not always easily, not always quickly, but it passes. And every time you let it pass without acting on it, you are training yourself toward a different kind of life. A quieter one. A freer one. The goal isn't to stop caring about things that matter. The goal is to stop letting things that don't matter run your life. To stop handing your peace over to people and situations that haven't earned it and can't protect it. To start investing your care where it actually has a return, in your work, your growth, your real relationships, your own becoming. Life is going to keep moving whether you grip it or release it. People are going to keep thinking what they think. Outcomes are going to keep surprising you. None of that is going to change. The only thing you get to choose is how much of yourself you sacrifice fighting against it. And when you really sit with that choice, when you understand that your peace is not something the world gives you, but something you build by learning when to let go, everything starts to look a little different. Stop caring so much. Not because nothing matters. But because you matter too, and right now you're spending yourself on things that will never give you back what you're putting in. Save that energy. Put it somewhere that deserves it. That's where the real life is.